Are you feeling funny? Funny like a clown? Well, you're in the right place because this is Funny Like a Clown podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth. What's today? April. Hey, April 5th. Man, we're already in April. Bam, goes quick. April 5th, 2022. This is episode 143. Vastly approaching the 150th episode, and I got no idea at this point what I'm going to do because every 50 episodes I do something special, and we'll see what we're going to bring for you guys. As always, today's episode is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce, and I've been on a diet, man. I've been craving some freaking buffalo sauce. I'll tell you, I'd kill for some G Vegas Buffalo Sauce right now. Available at www.gvegas.webs.com. Get it, go green, get it shipped right to your door. It's great stuff, and some macaroni and cheese and some buffalo chicken and with extra buffalo sauce on top, and pow, that's fastly becoming one of my favorite meals. But anyway, hey, we've been doing the late night circuit here. Years ago on the podcast, I did the they called them Late Night Comedy Wars with the when Carson retired, with the Lenos and the Lettermans and the Conan O'Briens, and I guess we're doing the modern day comedy circuit on the late night circuit. We did Jimmy Kimmel, we did Jimmy Fallon, and I guess we got to talk about this guy right here, Mr. Stephen Colbert. Took over for David Letterman when he retired, and I guess the other ones, Fallon came up through Saturday Night Live, Jimmy Kimmel came up through Comedy Central, and those were stuff I was more into because I love comedy. And I gotta say, Stephen Colbert, he wasn't Comedy Central, but he was a political humorist, and I tried political comedy early in my career, and I figured out, man, you could piss some people off real quick. You're doing political humor, okay? You gotta have a very fine-tuned way of doing it, okay, where you mention subjects and not names, and I was mentioning names and not subjects, and that was the mistake I made in tackling political humor. But I've never really been into politics. I tried to get on for a little while and said, you know what, this ain't for me because they're all freaking crooked if you ask me. But that's my opinion on politics now. Okay, so man, yeah, there's a lot of people follow politics. Certainly comedy about it. It's a growing thing. It was big, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. The humorous shows. We can add humor to anything. It's going to take off because people like to laugh. But when you can learn about politics, but you can do it in a humorous way, that's an easier way to do it than frying your brain watching one of the news networks or something like that, and not doing it in a humorous way. So let's see, Stephen Colbert, best known for Comedy Central, The Colbert Report, which he did from 2005 to 14. Obviously, as I mentioned, taking over with David Letterman, CBS's The Late Show from 2015 to present. He actually studied to be a dramatic actor. That was what he wanted to do, and he had an interest in improv comedy, where it's like a Robin Williams type, where you pick up a water bottle and, hey, this is what's in front of me. I do a routine on that off the top of my head rather than a planned out scripted routine in comedy. And he wrote and performed in the short-lived Dana Carvey show, which, like I said, a lot of people tried out for a late night, man, for do a talk show, and it's not an easy thing to hit a home run. That's why these established shows are so coveted to get on, because they have a built-in audience. Or getting a new audience, man, not easy. Ask Fox TV. They tried to do it for years. Joan Rivers, Chevy Chase, they had so many come through there, and man, they just couldn't get one that took off, no matter what name they brought in. So let's see, part of the TV series Strangers with Candy. Let's see, which gained notoriety for a gay history teacher. And gaining notoriety, I guess they get you recognized. Gained recognition in Comedy Central's The Daily Show in 2005, which he then left to do a spinoff, to host the Colbert Report, and which were political opinion show. You give your opinion in a humorous way on the politics, because politics is subjective, so everything's by opinion. Let's see. And earned him invite to the White House for the Correspondents' Dinner. Be feature entertainer, which became a top-rated show. 2015, Success let him leave to host a late night show. I mean, you could see it step by step. In progression right to being one of the top guys right there. He paid his dues and took over for David Letterman after his retirement. Hosted the 69 Primetime Emmys in 2017. Won a Primetime Emmy, 2 Grammys, 3 Peabody Awards, and named the Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in 2006 and 2012. Got a book out, I Am America, and so I Am America, and so can you. It's on #1 on New York's Times bestseller list, 2007. So you got a #1 best-selling book. Somebody's listening to you. Apparently, they're listening to Stephen Colbert. Okay. Let's see. How'd it all get started? As a kid, he noted Southerners, and he noticed on TV that Southerners were depicted as less intelligent on TV. So he taught himself to imitate he taught himself to imitate the speech of news anchors, okay, because he was from the South and he didn't want to come off as like being this dumb Southerner. So he watched the news, and the news anchors they all spoke intelligently. That was, they got to come off as the serious person. So it's like he wanted to come off as an educated person. So he taught himself to imitate the speech of the news anchors. Developed a love for fantasy movies. And Guns N' Roses and Dungeons and Dragons, and I guess Pokemon was the thing my kid. Everybody was into the cards there and everything, but yeah, there's like a whole world that gets into those things. They got those little games and stuff, and I delivered food for years, pizza and Chinese food, and man, I delivered to some of these like places where they get together and play these Dungeons and Dragons games, and it was just elaborate board setups, and they were so into it. It's like it had this whole cult following into that stuff. Okay, let's see. After 2 years in college, he transferred to pursue his love of theater, which, as I mentioned, he wanted to be a dramatic actor. After school, he needed some money, so he's offered by a friend in Second City answering phones and working in the souvenir shop. So, there's been some interesting ways how people got started, and this is one of them. I mean, you get a job in like this entertainment business, but your job is, answering phones and working in the souvenir shop. Well, we found out, though, working there, that entitled him to take classes at the training center that they had there for free. So, hey, there's a door opening for him. I get to take some free classes, where if you go to college, you got to pay for that stuff. Hey, if you're working there, we'll give it to you for free because you're an employee. Doors open, and he took it. Became a study of comedians and so some comedians that worked there. He started studying with them and that were given the classes. And when the teachers were offered a HBO series to create, he ended up going with them, and I guess he was a prize student. They took him with them to HBO to work on that series. Off to the races, working in the souvenir shop to working on a comedy show on freaking HBO. How do you like that one for apples? The sketch comedy Exit 57, and only lasted 12 episodes, but got favorable reviews. And, no matter how many episodes it lasted, you got your foot in the door, and getting your foot in the door is one big thing in comedy. After that, he caught on as a writer for the Dana Carvey show in 1996. Okay, so one of the connections I'm sure he must have made from his time on HBO. I guess the Dana Carvey show had borderline questionable taste, and they say a lot of these shows, that show was like ahead of its time, because now if you did it, it would be tame, but for the time, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's doing this. And I've heard from a few comics that the Dana Carvey show was ahead of its time. So we have to say Stephen Colbert, if he was a writer, he was ahead of his time back then. Okay. So sponsors pulled out after the first episode. They canceled after 7 episodes, because if you got no sponsors, you got no show. So that's why I need you guys to buy some G Vegas buffalo sauce. Okay. Get it shipped right to your door so Dennis can keep doing Funny Like a Clown podcast, and we can learn about the history of comedy together and get educated. And Yeah, I thought about it. I'm a big sports fan, and I watch all the ESPNs and the sports show, and I'm like, these guys are so lucky. They just get to sit there and talk about sports and what they love all day. Well, I'm lucky. I got Funny Like Clown podcast. I get to talk comedy to you guys and educate you about it. And I enjoy comedy, so I enjoy every second of doing it. I'm learning things I didn't even know about these great comics, so that inspires me as a comic to do greater things too. Because I remember, but that's what I thought. When you're a kid, you watch these people on TV. It's like, man, they're so lucky they get to be on TV. Imagine that. Well, they started out as regular people just like us, man. So don't ever be afraid to go for what you love in life. Let's see. He worked briefly as a writer for Saturday Night Live, as a script consultant for MTV and VH1. He was hired to do some humorous segments on Good Morning America, and let's see. Only 2 segments were proposed for his time on Good Morning America. Only one was used, so you got a lot of writers, but only some make air, and apparently, only 2 of his were even proposed to be on air, and one was used. But working there on Good Morning America led to a referral, so somebody liked his work, even if it wasn't making the air, to the Daily Show. You ever heard of Daily Show? Yeah, a few of us heard of that show. He's off to the races. So now he's a writer on the Daily Show, but he continued to work with his teachers from school on a comedy series for Comedy Central, Strangers with Candy. So, I always said you got to keep your foot into a few different things. I got the podcast, I got comedy, I got some movies out, I had a TV show. So you got to, yeah, you got to keep involved. Let's see. So he was doing Strangers with Candies with his teachers for Comedy Central. At the same time, he's working on the Daily Show, which is also on Comedy Central. Worked under Jon Stewart on the Daily Show, and I always thought Stephen Colbert was he was the more educated political humorist, where Jon Stewart was more like the blue man, the blue collar comedy guy. When he was talking about politics. And I always thought Jon Stewart, I thought, my opinion, would have been a great host for the Late Show, which I mean, he could have related to David Letterman's blue collar crowd. But I guess they went the established route, and Stephen Colbert certainly hearing it, man. I mean, you can't argue that. Let's see. So he's working under Jon Stewart on the Daily Show, doing correspondence work. He filled in as host sometimes when Jon Stewart wasn't available. Really getting your name out there, because I mean, Jon Stewart, man, was big rated show. Which eventually led to the 2005 spinoff of the Colbert Report, which same thing. I remember Jay Leno, man, he was the fill-in host for Carson, and I guess it was a few of him, and I forget who it was who was filling in for Carson, but everybody else, when the Tonight Show became more popular, they raised their price, and Leno kept his price the same, which he got to host it a heck of a lot more. Wasn't making as much money, but he got seen one heck of a lot more. So ain't always about money. You learn that real quick in comedy, man. So 2005, he's got his own show, The Colbert Report, debuted to 1.2 million viewers, and it was established right off the bat as one of Comedy Central's highest rated shows. Which once you're on a highest rated show on cable TV, you know what happens. 2015, The Late Show came a calling, and he announced he'd be leaving that show to succeed David Letterman on The Late Show. Let's see, he linked the deal with CBS to produce Tuning Out the News, Fairview, and he was executive producer of The God's Honest Truth. So yeah, a lot of you do side things in contracts. It's like, hey, you want me to do this, I'll do it. But remember Andy Kaufman did that. It's like, hey, you want to do Taxi? Well, I don't really like sitcoms. We need you on Taxi. Well, if you let me do Taxi, give me a few comedy specials of my own, and I'll do it. You always try to get a little something extra. So yeah, if you want me to come do The Late Show, I'll do it. But you gotta let me produce a couple of my own shows here, and that's how you keep your foot in the door and make things happen for you. You always get a little extra when they want you. 2006, he was invited to the White House to be featured actor at the Correspondents' Dinner, and He took shots at the president and the media, and the media didn't like it at all. You don't take shots at the media, they're going to fight back. So they weren't giving him favorable reviews. But the fans absolutely loved it because video of it got out on the internet. It became an internet sensation. Okay, so while the media didn't like him taking shots at it, the fans were writing him saying, "Yeah, I'm thinking that too, man. Good stuff, good stuff." And man, if you can get a viral video, I know, man. I do a character called the Child Support Superhero, and it had moderate success. All of a sudden, I had one post at like 3.5 million or whatever people, whatever it was. Boom, page just took off, man. So a viral video in comedy or viral anything, not bad. After the correspondence dinner and the video going nuts, ratings rose 37% for the Colbert Report. Let's see, 2008, under the persona of the Colbert Report, he jokingly did a run, hinted for a run for presidency. So, I mean, it was his character was going to run for president, not the actual Stephen Colbert, but the character that he used on the TV show. Let's see, 2009 did some USO work for the Iraqi war. That's always cool. You can entertain the troops. You got to give back, man. That's cool. He gave back. You're a political humorist, you know, and you're telling us these guys, you know, these politicians are the ones sending our kids to war. So, you know, I'm sure that entertained the troops when you can have this guy on. 2010, did a congressional testimony in character, and 2000 they also did the DC rallies. So when people are rallying behind you in DC and marching to the White House and stuff like that, you know you've hit something big right there, and Colbert did it. Like I said, I'm educating you here. I'm getting educated. I'm not a political guy, so I'll give you the stuff as best I can here, but you can't ignore the guy's success. 2007, he had a small role in Bewitched, the movie, which I remember watching the TV show back in the day. I don't believe I watched the movie, but also on Curb Your Enthusiasm, Spin City, which, remember that being a sitcom? It was Michael J. Fox, and when he got sick, Charlie Sheen took over, but man, they had a lot of talent on that show. I know a lot of political talent. Well, I guess it was a show about politics. They work in a mayor's office and stuff, so I guess that makes sense. But a lot of the political humorists, they did get some time on Spin City. He was on Law and Order, Criminal Intent, celebrity guest, I believe, on Whose Line Is It Anyway? Voice work. We've always said big money in voice work. Cartoon Network voices. The Kensher brothers. He was on Crank Yankers, one of my favorite. I love watching Crank Yankers, man. The voices of some of those puppets were just the top comedians at the time. And Stephen Colbert, we made some phone calls under some voices. The cartoon American Dad. Yeah, what can you say about voice work? And I got an idea for later in my career for some voice work. I'm not going to announce it yet because it's going to be a big announcement when I do it, but I'll be doing some major voice work, and I look forward to it, man. I mean, I got to get done what I'm doing now, but you know, I've planned out my career, I guess, what I will be doing in the future. I'm very excited about it. Let's see, he was in the Canadian animated series, The Wrong Coast, The Simpsons. How many times we mentioned The Simpsons? I think every great comedian in our time has been on The Simpsons at one point or another. How do you turn down The Simpsons, the longest running cartoon in TV history? I mean, you're going to get all the big guests, man. When you're on top, that's what you get. You get all top talent. Here's one I love. Portrayed the letter Z on Sesame Street. I'll tell you what, you know, Cartoon Network, they got Nickelodeon. How big are cartoons? You had Saturday morning cartoons when you're a kid, but man, it all traced back the first big two, okay, that we saw as kids. Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers. And Sesame Street with the puppets were really, really appealing to you. And you'd call that the godfather of children's television itself, man. That led in, you know, we wouldn't have Nickelodeon and Comedy Central, you know, Cartoon Network or whatever, you know, without Sesame Street starting it all, man. That there was a big era for kids, and Sesame Street was at the top of it. So let's see. He said his influences were Bill Cosby, but he did say no longer to listen to Cosby after his allegations there. All right, I'm out of my studio. I'm in a different place, and I'm still sneezing. So maybe I just got the sneezes when I have the podcast. I'm yawning. It's late at night here, but I'm getting the podcast in because I don't let you guys down. I try not to. But yeah, I guess, you know, Bill Cosby's one of the guys who influenced you to do comedy, and then he come out with the horrible charges that he had against him. You know, can you separate the man from his work? I'm able to separate the man from his work. I mean, I don't approve. Obviously, nobody approves of what he did with the allegations, but you can't take away he made us all laugh as kids. You know, I think I brought it up before. You know, Van Gogh gave us some of the greatest art of his time. He cut off one of his ears because he was nuts or whatever. So, you know, hey, not everybody, you know, that gives works on a sane level, but you can't ignore the guy's talent. Let's see. Carlin was another one of his influences. Dean Martin, Steve Martin, Monty Python, big underground show that everybody loved, and yeah, you know, I was asked like, who are my, you know, godfathers of comedy if you had to build a Mount Rushmore? Now, Sam Kinison, I think personally, for minute, me personally, okay, was the greatest comedian that ever lived. I mean, he changed the game, okay? I mean, he literally changed comedy. But you know, they say Pryor changed comedy. You know, it was a clean thing, then it was a dirty thing with Pryor. Well, yeah, Kinison took it to the next level where he'd actually shock you rather than just doing dirty. He'd give you shock comedy, okay? And he was the first one doing the shock comedy. But you know, if you had to build a Mount Rushmore, I mean, you couldn't argue Carlin and Pryor. Those are, you know, got to be on there. I mean, Cosby, if you can separate the man from his work, you had to put him on there. Rodney Dangerfield, what he gave us for entertainment, plus, as I've said many times on the podcast, bringing the next generation forward of, you know, all the guys he gave a break to bring us the next generation of comedy. And the other guy you got to put in there, Steve Martin, man. He was the guy, you know, when he did King Tut and back when he was on top with the jerk and everything, he was the first one that took it from selling out comedy clubs to selling out freaking arenas, okay? He took comedy to the next level, okay, where that many people come out to see this guy. And that's, you know, you see rock bands and legends that go out to arenas for that, to come out for a comedy show. That's really saying you hit the top right there, man. That's some good stuff. Let's see. Stephen Colbert, practicing Roman Catholic. He taught Sunday school. There's one you might not have known about him. And Colbert teaching Sunday school to some kids. That's cool. He's an ordained minister. One you might not have known about him. Some fun facts here we do at the end. Here's one you might not have known. Ben and Jerry's named a flavor after him. How big are you in the comedy world when Ben and Jerry's is actually going to name a flavor after you? Here's another one I thought. I don't know if it's I don't know. I'll let you decide what it is, but certainly I didn't know this. There's been some species named after him. At least 5 different species have been named after him. Like if they find a new insect or a new bug that's like never been seen before or heard of, they give it a name. Well, 5 of these things have been named after Stephen Colbert. Why, I don't know. It's a strange fact, I guess, you know, about him. And last fun fact about Stephen Colbert: NASA named a treadmill they made for the space station in outer space after him. So, hey, you're hitting some political people right there. You got NASA involved. You got species named after you. Ben and Jerry's is coming. Fun facts. That's when you know if you had a hell of a career. And one funny guy, man. You know, like I said, when you can turn politics, a serious thing, into something funny, now you're hitting 2 audiences. You're hitting the comedian audience, plus you're hitting the political audience. You're hitting 2 audiences. Boom, that's going to take off. Well, I'm hitting you guys, man. I hope you're educating with me, man. And I love talking comedy, and I appreciate you guys tuning me in. And tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Funny Like a Clown podcast. We're making a movement here. You want to learn about comedy? This is the place to do it, because know your past or you're doomed to repeat it. That was the big saying in every history class I took in high school. Know your past or you're doomed to repeat it. So if you want to be a great comedian, know the comedy's past, you know. And I had Bill Kirchenbauer on, which great comedian, was on Mork and Mindy, just the 10 of us. Had his own big thing at the time, and he said the same thing, man. You know, you want to be a great comedian? No comedy's past. Know what's done before you. Know what makes a great comedian, and that's what we're doing here. Till next time. I hope you can eat some buffalo sauce, because I'm on a diet, but someday I'm gonna have some buffalo sauce again. And till then, G Vegas, baby, you heard it here first. Good night.